Thank you. So I was sitting in the middle seat of a plane in between two of my coworkers, reading a book to pass a little time. And I don't know what it was about the book in that moment that was getting to me, but I couldn't stop the tears. So my coworkers are shifting a little uncomfortably because of my sobs, but quietly pretended like they didn't notice what was happening. You see, it's one of our unspoken understandings at work that we leave our feelings at the door. Either of my coworkers could have put a hand on my arm and asked me if I needed anything, but instead they did like most of us are conditioned to do. They left me alone, and that left me ashamed. To most people I meet, I'm a successful career woman with a seat at the table. But honestly, I'm just a person suffering from so many of the things that other people are hiding too. Anxiety, grief, depression. These are feeling words that we've been conditioned to hide when we walk through the office door. Another one of those unspoken understandings. If you're hurting, don't let it show. I believe it's time for us to break free from those unspoken understandings, the ones that shame us for being human. And it's time for us to create new norms that welcome and embrace our humanness at work. Particularly in HR, it is beyond time for us to take responsibility for cultivating company culture that welcomes and embraces human connection and whole living. The working adult population in this country is riddled with disease, and companies like mine are faced with insane increases in the cost of healthcare every year. And so it really is time for us to take this seriously and put employee self-care first. Well, to me, self-care goes so far beyond diet and exercise. I'm talking about things like setting boundaries, embracing change, learning to listen to what your gut tells you, speaking your truth, finding your voice, sleeping. Yes, I said sleeping, maybe not at work, but I am a fan of a cat nap, but sleeping nonetheless to rest and rejuvenate, being kind. You get where I'm going here. I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I say whole living. It's this idea that in our over-connected world, work and life are not separate. I don't know about you, but the last time I left work, I did not take off my work and put on my life. In fact, sometimes I come to work and I'm flustered because I had a situation at home with my family, or I have to leave work in the middle of the day for a doctor's appointment, or I just need a walk, or I'm feeling unwell. Sometimes my boss really frustrates me. Or my employees on my team aren't doing what I want them to do, or some employee did something so ridiculous at work that I'm thinking, what the F was that person thinking? And all of these things that relate to our work and our life outside of work can happen any day, any given time of day. And it's impossible for me to believe that it's easy to switch back and forth and productive between our work self and our life self. Every day, all day. So, let's talk about some numbers. Because this self-care revolution is not just about making people feel better. What company doesn't want to shave off some of the 5 or 10 or whatever $1 million it's spending every year on health insurance? Add to that some double-digit increases, and we need a CFO in here to do the math, because let's be honest, HR doesn't do math well. And for all of the companies spending all of this money, there are trillions more spent by you and by me and the good people in this beautiful country, because we are pushed beyond our capacity and forced to be stressed and frantic because there's no time for life during work hours. We've got to stop the madness, because the more we press on with this lack of wholeness, the sicker we become, and the more it costs every single one of us. Now, I didn't always believe in this idea of self-care. A few years ago, I went to Bali for a yoga retreat. First day, first night in the hotel, I decided to check my email, but between the spotty Wi-Fi and the time difference, things were not going the way I planned. And so I had a little freak out, like, how are these people at work possibly going to survive without me? Anyway, so a few days go by and no one called me in my hotel to ask me things I was convinced they couldn't answer without me. And so I really had a moment of pure despair. Like, I was married to my job. What followed was a 6-month healing crisis. In spiritual terms, that's healing crisis for us. That's why am I freaking crying so much? Anyway, but the result was me in, an entirely different new place in my own health. And what I know is, despite all of the responsibility that has grown for me in my job, I protect my well-being better than I've ever done. And so I ask you to ask yourselves when you go back tomorrow to your jobs, is your company promoting self-care as selfless or as selfish? Thank you.